Welcome back to my channel. I think we've all heard about stories of how bad the Chicago Bears quarterbacks have been, but I wasn't sure if this was an exaggeration or not, so in today's video, I'm doing a deep dive into the deep, dark history of Bears quarterbacks. To start things off, I guess I might as well go through some fun facts of Bears history. Of course, there is the fact that they have never had a 4,000-yard passer in the history of the Bears. How common is this, you ask? Well, there have been 15 players pass over 5,000 yards, and there have been 227 seasons in which a player has thrown for over 4,000 yards. To make things worse, there has also never been a Bears quarterback who has thrown for 30 touchdowns, and there have been 153 of those seasons. To start things off, yes, the Bears have had a good quarterback. Unfortunately, it was back in the 1930s and 40s with Sid Luckman, who last played for the Bears in 1949. He was a Pro Bowl and All-Pro quarterback, and by far the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. Sid did peak at 28 touchdowns, and he did that in 10 games in 1943. So I guess this was against World War II competition, so most of the best athletes were probably fighting a war, but I'm still giving him credit for 28 touchdowns in the 40s. That is impressive. And to add on to that, he only had 12 interceptions. You know, Sid Luckman, solid quarterback, but from there on, it just gets very bad. Very, very bad. The next quarterback that I had heard of that I'm going to consider a significant quarterback in Bears history, which are the ones that I'll be covering. Of course, all teams have a bunch of terrible quarterbacks who only played a season or two, who are really insignificant in the history of the team. But as far as significant quarterbacks in Bears history, the next one is Jim Mcmahon. So Jim gets a lot of love, mainly because he won the Super Bowl. However, it's not really that impressive. He actually was not that good. He did get selected to the Pro Bowl once, so he's not even a multi-time Pro Bowler. The most touchdowns he threw for in a single year were 15, and that came with 11 interceptions. And did he pile on the yards and maybe they ran it in? No, he only threw for 2,392 yards in his peak season. He wasn't even good enough that the Bears really wanted to keep him. He only played there for 7 seasons and then played for teams such as the Chargers, the Eagles, the Vikings, and so on. But he wasn't even good enough for the Bears in the 80s, having won a Super Bowl with him, to decide to keep him. So while yes, he did win, no, it's not because of him. It was all the defense. So unfortunately, if you're looking back on him as the glory days in Bears history, he's just not there. Up next is Rex Grossman, Sexy Rexy as he's known, and he is another Bears quarterback to sort of lead the team to a Super Bowl. Yes, he did play. No, he was not good, but he was much worse than McMahon was. And he was kind of shockingly bad. In fact, that was the only season in which he played 16 games. And in that year, he threw for 23 touchdowns and 20 interceptions. Just dragged to the Super Bowl by that defense. But unfortunately, when he made it to the Super Bowl, he had one of the worst quarterback performances in a Super Bowl ever. He threw for 165 yards in 28 attempts. He had 1 touchdown, which was a 1-yard touchdown pass. He had 2 interceptions, and he fumbled it twice. So I was too young at the time to remember, watching him play, just how bad he was. In my head, he was decent. He was the quarterback of a 13-win team. But looking back, he was putrid. It makes sense why he didn't stick around with the team. So far, it does kind of seem like Caleb Williams might be the best quarterback the Bears have ever had. Up next, the guy who is a lot of Bears fans' best quarterback ever, at least the ones that I have talked to, and that is Jay Cutler. No, he's not very good. At his peak, I would say he was roughly an average quarterback in the NFL, but because of how bad Bears quarterbacks have been, a lot of them say he's the best they've ever had. So he played with the Bears for 7 seasons. And he did have some pretty good years. He had some 10-5 seasons in which he performed well enough. He was never a Pro Bowler while on the team, or of course an All-Pro either. He had constant kind of attitude problems, at least it seemed, from off the field. And the stats aren't impressive either. He started things off in 2009 with 27 touchdowns and 26 interceptions. That's almost a Jameis Winston 30 for 30. So close to greatness. Statistically, Jay Cutler's best season was 2014. And this year he threw for 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 18 interceptions. But the team went 5-10. It was a lot of garbage time playing, and clearly it wasn't good enough to even make the Pro Bowl when there are a lot of quarterbacks who make the Pro Bowl. On top of that, the Bears decided to get rid of him just 2 seasons later, so clearly he was not anything special that year. If you've made it this far into the video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing down below. But back to the video. Going chronologically, up next is in 2017, Mitch Trubisky. So it was really a head-scratching move when they picked him, when they traded up to pick him especially. He didn't look that good in college, but he actually started off decent in the NFL. In 2018, the team went 11-3 under his watch and made the playoffs. And he was a Pro Bowler. He threw for 24 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. He was nowhere near the 4,000 passing yards mark with only 3,200. But, while the stats weren't super impressive, he played winning football at the time. And he even had a winning record the next 2 seasons as well, going 8-7 and 6-3. However, in each of these seasons, they were clearly winning, not because of him, but you've probably heard this before, because of their defense. So the Bears moved on, and he has moved on as well. He went to Buffalo and Pittsburgh, where he has not impressed. So I guess Pro Bowler, but not good. Then the most recent step in the history of Bears QBs, and that is Justin Fields. A lot of fans might still like him at this point. I know it was a debate at the end of the season, should they keep him or not? Clearly they decided not, and they only traded him for like a bag of chips. At the end of the season, I kind of thought they should keep him. However, upon further review, clearly it was the right move to get rid of him. He was just not good enough. His passing yards, the most he ever threw for was 2,500. The most touchdowns he had was 17. And you may say, oh, it's all rushing yards, but he didn't rush for enough to make up for that. Like while yes, was electric and fun to watch in fantasy, it wasn't enough of a difference, especially in 2023. And it led to him fumbling a lot and getting hurt multiple times. While he was fun, he's pretty likable. At the end of the year, the fans liked him. The team was improving, but he's just not it. He got sacked over 10% of his dropbacks in each season, peaking at almost 15%. You just can't win in the NFL if you get sacked 15% of the time that you pass the ball. So now I've made it through all of the Bears' notable quarterbacks. On to the next, Caleb Williams. Will he be better? Is he already the best quarterback in Bears history? And surprisingly, I think he might already be the best quarterback in Bears history. He threw for 4,500 yards in 14 games in 2022. including 42 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That blows any Bears quarterback season out of the water by so much. Like, it is so much better than any Bears quarterback ever. Then in 2023, he took a step back. He wasn't quite as good, but his quarterback rating actually went up. And in this season, he only played 12 games instead of 14, but he threw for 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. So that shows he would have passed the 4,000 yard marker twice in an NFL season and the 30 touchdown marker twice. Back-to-back years. He is clearly what appears to be the best quarterback in Bears history, and he hasn't even played a single snap. So this might be getting your hopes up, Bears fans, but I think you have a promising future ahead of you with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, and more. That's kind of funny. And more. And the team looks to have a bright future ahead of it. Maybe, finally, they'll have a top 10 quarterback in the league. But thanks for watching the video. Please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting down below, and I will see you later.